Okay, continue. Sambung ya. Alright. Boleh ya? Okay,
Boleh.
Okay. Alright. Weather very good outside. Ada setengah tempat ada thunderstorm, so you may lose your connections and all that. Try as much as possible to follow. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. What's next? The break. We look at some of the important outcome of participative development. Some of these are repetitive, but let's look over anyway. So the most important outcome of participative development is the presence of local people. Yeah, presence atau involvement local people in decision making, as well as program development, ya, termasuk design, planning, implementation, and also evolution. Right? And people also as well will be come through the process. Who are involved lah, in particular, come to the process with some kind of new acquired skills, ataupun kemahiran tertentu yang diperolehi, and also having a sense of being in control. Yeah, in control. Not sure whether it is my microphone yang berbunyi itu apa. All right, and participation also involve collectively organized continuous efforts by the people in themselves in setting goals, and also to pool the resources, yeah, as actions which aim at improving their living conditions as well. So, according to Johnston and Clark in 2008, they said, or they stated that participation has a large cost for the poor invest, yeah, because to them, even though to some people, for the rich, maybe the amount is small, the time is little, and so on, but poor people, the cost is big, and therefore they will invest their participation. They believe that it will cure them some valuable benefits not otherwise available at and risk. Jadi local community, especially the poor, if they think that, or if they believe that through their participation they will get the benefits, they will get, they will be able to achieve the goals and so on, invest time to in the program. So some of the key principles of approaches, I think some of this may have been mentioned earlier on, is one of the key principles that it involves people as subjects rather than as objects, as people who are part of the project, not just the the saran saja, ya. So another key principles of participatory development approach that it respects local knowledge and also local skills. Okay, so taking into account the knowledge of the local people as well as the skills of the local people. Jadi tadi pun itu contoh lah, ya, local knowledge is very useful. Okay, the third one is it ensure influence over development decision, ensuring influence over development decision, simply just their involvement. involvement to satu, but more important is their involvement in decision making. Yeah, decision. It is also a learning process as much as it is an outcome. So jadi through their participation, they also learn new skills, new knowledge, yeah, new ways of doing things, while at the same time they may achieve the yeah as well. So and also is an approach and also attitude rather than just a specific set of technical skills. Ya. Jadi perubahan dari segi apa nama attitude of people also, ya, and just technical skills. Okay, so next is the participation level of intensity. Tadi kita telah lihat kepada apa nama ni berapa stages of participatory development, ya, ataupun participation. Another way of looking at the levels of participation dilihat dari segi intensity-nya, ya, bukan dari segi jenis, ya, tetapi intensity-nya. Contohnya, the first stage atau information sharing. Information sharing di sini adalah di mana tujuannya adalah untuk apa nama kita berkongsi maklumat, ya, bersama people, for example, ya, orang tempatan. Ya. So over here there is minimal level of participation. They often consist of little more than just keeping people informed of what is going to happen yang tidak dijalankan, tetapi tidak melibatkan orang tempatan dari segi planning dan sebagainya. It is a one-way flow of information. Yang level kedua adalah boleh dilihat sebagai consultation, yeah, where you consult the local community. So this means there is a flow of information. In other words, there is a dialogue going on between the planners and the recipients of the project. Yeah. However, this dialogue may not necessarily impact on decision making as well. Jadi, tetapi sekurang-kurangnya ada consultation, ya, walaupun mereka tidak terlibat langsung secara langsung dalam membuat keputusan. Right. Yang ketiganya adalah decision making. The third level is decision making. This is higher than consultation. Yeah, this is where participation reaches higher level when it involves individuals ataupun groups. Yeah, particularly those who are usually before this ataupun tak pernah terlibat, ya, sebelum ini in actually making the decisions. Okay. So they have the authority and also the responsibility, yeah, in taking action. Yeah. Right. So when they make decision, the fourth one is the highest level is initiating action, and this is where the apa nama tu when people take it on themselves to initiate new action. Nah, itu sama dengan process of ownership and empowerment tadi lah. Yeah. So that is the initiating action. Yeah. So these are for the various levels of intensity of involvement and the intensity of participation. Ya, boleh lihat situ. So mungkin maybe you know of certain apa nama instances, contohnya where you know your parents maybe or even yourself, ya, pernah kan ataupun pernah dirujuk dan sebagainya dalam sesuatu perkara. Okay, so some maybe like what I'm doing now is more on information sharing. Yeah, I don't really involve you in decision making. Just an example. Yeah, maybe a little bit of consultation. That's what I'm doing. Yeah, but from your point of view, you're not really involved in decision making on how the course is going to be conducted and so on. Yeah. Okay, so or how the course is going to be assessed. right? And also, yeah, so that's the kind of thing, yeah, in terms of levels of intensity of participation. Okay, move on. Then I'm going to look at closely rural development, why people participation is important or critical in terms of rural development. Okay, so as a rural development program, as the rural development program is for the people, that's what it is, right? It's not for the government, but rather for the people. It should certainly be the program of the people and by the people. In other words, program untuk apa nama ni mereka dan juga dibuat oleh mereka sendiri, ya. Termasuk apa nama membuat keputusan tadi lah. Right. So without the apa nama ni effective participation from people, the rural people maksud saya, it would not be possible to make rural development program, uh, apa nama, rural development as a people program, ya. So that's active participation, involvement, also cooperation of the local people are absolutely essential, ya, mesti, ya, for the proper implementation of rural development program. Jadi karena ini lebih-lebih lagi mungkin sebelum 1970s it was done differently lah, but after the 1970s I think the emphasis is on the apa nama involvement of the local people in rural development program. Saya boleh nampak ini, ya. I've lived long enough to see what happened before the 1970s, you know, and also after the 1970s. Yeah, in the past it used to be some projects, you know, brought to the without consulting, without even talking, yeah, with the local people. Contohnya projek getah dan sebagainya ketika dahulu, ya. But now, even with the apa nama ni pelaksanaan, contohnya skim kelapa sawit, for example, ya, ataupun planting of oil palm, ya, the local people are involved, ada dialog dan sebagainya, dan satu lagi ianya melibatkan tanah orang tempatan. Jadi the more reason why the local people are or should be involved in the planning process. Okay. Juga contohnya tentang program-program kesihatan, ya, program-program apa namanya untuk apa namanya orang-orang muda contohnya, ya. So there is a need for that. Otherwise, mungkin dulunya orang muda ni dianggap tidak tahu ataupun kurang tahu tentang program yang sesuai untuk mereka sendiri, ya. So the expert contohnya things that things should be like this, like that, without consulting the local people, ya, particularly the target group tadi lah. Okay. So people's participation should be in the decision making and as well as implementation and also evaluation of the phase of the rural development programs. Okay, so the main objective of the people participation can be one is to have better planning and implementation of the rural development program. Sorry, there are typo errors in it. Let me correct that first. Yeah, so it helps. In other words, the objective is to have a better planning and implementation of rural development programs. Yang keduanya adalah to mobilize, ya, mobilization of additional resources, which may not be provided for by the planners, ya, which you can get from the local situation ataupun di dalam local community itu sendiri, ya, mobilization of additional resources, maybe in terms of human resource dan sebagainya required for development programs. Yeah? And the third one is to empower the people, yeah? Empowering the people, particularly the poor rural community, for them to play an effective role in rural development. So those are the objectives of people participation in rural development. Okay. All right. So the issue is now, if you look at some small group, some ethnic group, for example, um, whether or not they should be engaged in the process, yeah, of development, right? So why is this important? I think we've seen earlier on some of the objectives of participation in development, um, because rural people, they have their own goals, they have their own apa namanya, issue or problems, needs, and so on, right? So which sometimes may not be understood ataupun kurang dipahami oleh pihak apa nama yang berkuasa dan sebagainya, right? So you need to involve them, yeah, in the development program. Another issue, is it their right to be to participate or to be involved in the development program. Jadi so ada gambar-gambar di sini saya letakkan tentang apa namanya penglibatan kumpulan etnik tertentu dalam proses pembangunan. Contoh di sini, this is obviously is a rubber planting scheme ataupun project ya, dan ianya melibatkan pihak tempatan ya dalam apa namanya melaksanakan projek tersebut lah ya. So the local people are involved in there. Okay, another one. This one is the apa nama local indigenous people involved in the marketing of their farm product ataupun forest product dan sebagainya. Right, these two are the sellers, and this potential. I don't know, maybe one of them, but could be potential buyer. But this is becoming more apa nama common nowadays. Ya, kalau dulu you don't see this thing happening, but now you can find this. Yeah, even in Kuching. So I frequent a lot of these places in Kuching, in 7 Mile. Apa namanya even in Batu Kawah area and so on, yeah, where local indigenous or ethnic group they sell this, even the sato, yeah, sato weekend market dan sebagainya. Also another one here, contohnya this is people who are apa nama yang mungkin ada dispute dengan the apa namanya plantation owners lah, maybe ada dispute dengan plantation owners, where local people also planting oil palm, and perhaps some of their land has been taken consciously or unconsciously by estate ataupun big companies and so on. Yeah, so they are expressing their dissatisfactions. Yeah, so this is one way of their participation as well, in a way. Yeah, they may be protesting, but they are protesting apa namanya with expressing their rights lah, the rights to development. So there's something over here, but it involves small children, perhaps orang asli, I don't know. Looks like it. Yeah. This is more. Let me see if I can read. Respecting native rights, yeah, and so on. Okay, it's not that they don't want development, but I think the issue is that some development may infringe into their their life and so on, ya, yang menyebabkan kehidupan mereka mungkin lebih susah ataupun their resources are taken away from them and so on and so forth. Jadi that could be the issue. I don't know. I'm just taking these pictures from the various sources. So another issue is how do we engage them? Ya, bagaimana kita nak melibatkan mereka, right? And what are the potential problems and so on. So, jadi itu mungkin boleh difikirkan dalam, for example, in your assignment, maybe not assignment 2, maybe assignment 3 nanti ya, yang mungkin ada kaitan ya. Jadi talking about approach development dari segi penglibatan participatory development approach, then you can even talk about this in your paper. Yeah. All right. So is it their right to participate in development? I think that's I don't think that's a big issue. I mean, kalau dulu mungkin ada isunya from the legal point of view and so on, but it is now with the SDG 2030 and so on. Is this worldwide recognition that the everybody, yeah, regardless of their status, yeah, big or small or majority or minority and so on, have the rights to development. Ya, cuma dari segi pembangunan tu mungkin berbeza. Apa yang orang di bandar tu mau, mungkin orang di luar bandar tu mungkin lain persepsi mereka. What they need is different from those in the urban areas, for example, ataupun mengikut kumpulan etnik tertentu. Ya, so there may be differences in terms of their needs and also in terms of their express rights and so on. Okay, so that's lead me to the next topic on people's right to development ataupun right to development. Jadi ini memang telah mendapat have gained popularity over the past few years berkenaan dengan rights to development or people's right to development. For example, the declarations on the right to development by the United Nations, yeah, for example, the right to development is an inalienable human right by virtue of which every human person and all persons are entitled to participate and contribute to and enjoy economic, social, cultural, and political development, right? In which all rights, all human rights and fundamental freedoms can be fully realized. Yeah, so this is one of the UN Declaration on the Right to Development in 1986. Yeah. And this development is a human right. In other words, every human being has the right to develop, right? So kita tak boleh halang, ya. So in this declaration on the right to development, which you can find in the United Nations declaration, yeah. If we look at this here, this is from the United Nations Human Rights Office, yeah. You can find this if you click on this and this writings ataupun dokumen, ya. So the contents of this declaration include what is the right to development, who are the rights holders and duty bearers of the right to development, and also the right to development in regional human rights system and instruments that exist in different parts of the world, and also the right to development and the Agenda 2030 Agenda ataupun SDGs, ya. Kalau dulunya 2030 agenda, but now they have what is known as the sustainable development goals. Yeah, so we're going to look for the remaining part of this class. I'm going to bring you to some of these issues, ya, berkenaan dengan rights to development ataupun as expressed by the United Nations. Yeah. All right. So the United Nations Declaration on the Right to Development, or RTD, in short form I use here, in 1996, yeah, where it is in Article 1.1, ya, seperti yang dibaca tadi lah, yang slide tadi. Okay, so first one is it is a human right and the source of human rights based approach to development. Right, so it is the right, every human right to development, and also a source of human rights based. Yeah? And it is both for individual as well as collective. In other words, it can be for the individual as well as for group, yeah, collectively. And also it has both national as well as international. Ya, dari segi pembangunan itu bukan saja di dalam negara tetapi juga di luar ataupun di internationally, ya, dari segi dimensi. And it also entitles everyone to participate in, contribute to, and enjoy development and its economic, social, and cultural, as well as political dimensions. So everybody, yeah, has the right, yeah, regardless of where one's live, yeah, including the minorities, including the the disadvantaged group and so on. Okay, so the principles and elements of this rights development, it is people centered, number one, yeah, where the human person is the central subject, yeah, of development, and they are the participant as well as the beneficiary of development. So people centered development. Keduanya, it is a human rights based approach where development should be carried out in which all human rights and fundamental freedoms can be fully realized. Right? Um, and also it talks about participation where active and free and meaningful participation of all individuals and peoples are to be encouraged ataupun perlu berlaku, ya, participation bagi semua, ya, all individuals and people. And also practice of non-discrimination. In other words, no distinction as to race, sex, language, or religion. So everybody should be entitled to development. Okay, no discrimination. That's the one that is the biggest challenge now, I think, because in some parts of the world, there are obviously some kind of discriminations going on, and that is the one that the United Nations is trying to address as well. Yeah, there shouldn't be any discrimination against certain people, whether it is based on race, whether it is based on gender, or whether it is based on language ataupun religion ataupun kepercayaan lah. Right? And also another principle is principle of equity, where it looks into the issue of fair distribution of the benefits of development. Okay, so not for just one group, but that everybody should get the benefits. Ya. Tak semestinya sama in terms of quantum, but at least the development is equally. Everybody gets the benefits, yeah, from development. And also another principle, right of people to self-determination. Yeah, right of people to self-determination. In other words, people can decide for themselves what is best. Yeah, or where they want to go, how they want to do it, what kind of job they would like to participate in, for example. Yeah. So these rights of people to self-development, including full sovereignty over all of their natural wealth and also resources, ya, penggunaan tanah sebagai contoh, ya. Right, so okay, so like all human rights, the principles of equity, equality, non-discrimination, the principle of participation, accountability, and transparency are intrinsic to the right to development tadi, ya, right to development. Okay, so development is seen as a comprehensive economic, social, cultural, and political process aims at the constant improvement of human well-being. Okay, so the human person becomes the central subject rather than the object, yeah, and the active participant and also the beneficiary of the right to development. Okay, so the states, ya, states yaitu termasuk pihak kerajaan, state, nation ataupun state must act to eliminate human rights violations of all forms. Jadi tidak make sure that human rights violations, human rights will be eliminated. So, right. So states should promote international peace, security, and disarmament, and use release resources for development. Jadi sumber-sumber itu digunakan untuk tujuan pembangunan. Ya. And equality opportunity for development is the prerogative of both the nations as well as individuals who make up the nation. And states have a duty to cooperate, yeah, to create an enabling local and global environment. Jadi peranan kerajaan ataupun pihak pemerintah adalah untuk to make sure that they can create an environment, yeah, both local and global environment for development and to eliminate obstacles to development. Okay, so the right to development requires appropriate national as well as international development policies, and it will to enabling social as well as international order to realize all rights and freedom. Jadi besar sebenarnya when you talk about rights of development and its principles and elements. Yeah. So who are the right holders and duty bearers of the right to development? Siapa yang bertanggung jawab? Yeah, who should look after that? Right. So the rights holders are the human being themselves, both individual and also collective, secara kumpulan ataupun community. So all individuals, all peoples, and the entire population. Emphasis also is on the women, children, and other groups. So why this is so? Because this seems to be the group that has been left behind. More emphasis now on these people who were considered as minority dulu, yeah. So emphasis on children and other groups as well. So who are the duty bearers? Yang bertanggung jawab, ya. Yang bertanggung jawab adalah the states. Ya. States have the primary responsibility to respect, to protect, and also fulfill the right to development at three levels. Yang pertama, ini mengikut artikel ini, ya. Internally through national policies and programs, dalam negara melalui polisi nasional, polisi negara, dan juga program-program pembangunan, ya. And also internationally as well, ya, antarabangsa through policies which are extended beyond their jurisdictions. Ya. Jadi internationally pun ada. And collectively through global and regional partnership, ya, di antara benua, di antara negara, ya, collectively, ya, global responsibility and partnership. And the other duty bearers are the international community. Memang ada international communities which are also bearers of rights to development. Ya, contoh-contohnya ada seperti there are few, ya, international, ya, community dealing with talking about rights to development and so on. Of course, the other bearers, duty bearers are all human beings, ya, setiap manusia, and all those whose actions and or omissions have and impact on human rights and also on the environment in which these rights are fulfilled. Jadi setiap manusia, ya. So all of us, the state, the government, the international community, and the local community, yeah, those are. So it's this the responsibility of all people, yeah. But without the state, yeah, without the state support, yeah, it is difficult. So you need to have this commitment from the state, yeah, from the government to make sure that um, the rights to development is practiced, yeah, dilaksanakan. Yeah. Okay, so the right to development has both global and regional, yeah, instruments, yeah, dari segi human rights instrument system, both global and regional. For example, we have the United Nations Declaration on the Right to Development. Then there is in America or in the North South America, they have the Inter-American Human Rights System. In Africa too, in the Africa, they have the African Human Rights System. And among the Arab countries, they have the Arab Charter on Human Rights. And then kita di bahagian di ASEAN region, we have the Association of Southeast Asian Nations ataupun ASEAN, ya, Human Rights Declaration. And also among the independent OIC, yeah, Islamic countries, yeah, Organization for Islamic Countries, Independent Permanent Human Rights Commission, ataupun dikenali sebagai Abu Dhabi Declaration, yeah. So it's everywhere actually, yeah. So for example, the Inter-American Human Rights System, which is the Organization of American States, 1948, yeah, which details the concepts itself, the concepts of rights development, rights and duties of integral development. The overall purpose should be the establishment of a more just economic and social order that will make possible and contribute to the fulfillment of individual. Ini dalam Article 33 of the Charter, yeah, of the American States. And then there is also the integral development is the common and joint responsibility of each member state or member states, yeah, stated in Article 21, and also preferably through multilateral organizations, yeah, seperti dinyatakan pada Article 32 of the Charter. And also the cooperation among states also stated dalam Article 32, yeah, including in this regard should include the economic, social, educational, cultural, scientific, and so on, ya, support the achievement of the national objective of member state. So, jadi ini merupakan satu charta, ya, satu perjanjian, ya, more or less about among the Association of American States tentang the global corporations and all that, yeah. Yeah, so respect the priorities established by each country and its development plan, yeah, without political ties also. That's for the American. And then the inter-American continuation of that, the American Convention on Human Rights in 1969 also talks about the issue of progressive development in Article 26 yang menyatakan the state parties undertake to develop measures both internally and through international cooperation, especially through an economic and technical nature and so on and so forth. Jadi memang dah ada, ya. These are stated there, ya. So this is among the Organization of American States, ya. Amended by the Protocol of Buenos Aires. Okay, jadi di Afrika pula, this is just quickly to go to this. This is also stated, yeah, the rights to development under Article 22, we state that all people shall have the right to the economic, social, cultural development. Seperti juga ini yang dalam inter-American tadi lah, yeah. So stamps kind of statements, and also states shall have the duty individually or collectively to ensure the exercise the right to development. Jadi memang benda tu sudah ada di situ. Cuma mungkin dari segi pelaksanaannya, ya. So it is stated there. And they have case law as well, ya. Jadi ada undang-undang tertentu di beberapa buah negara. Contohnya in Nigeria, ya, the social, you can click on this if you want, ya, tentang some of this case law yang ada, ya, Social Economic Rights Action Center di Nigeria, Democratic Republic Congo, Burundi, dan Rwanda, Uganda in 2003, ya. This you can find there, ya. Let me just click on this if I can find it. Jangan, time out pula. No, it's not there. Mana tadi? Kejap, let me reload tadi, tak dapat. But those are things that which you can find, yeah. You can find, yeah. Some of these are still available, some maybe have been taken off, yeah. So these are some of the cases, case law yang kaitan dengan people's right, to development in African, based on African Commission on Human and People's Rights. That's some of the pictures lah. And then in the Arab Charter on Human Rights, on Article 27, for example, so it says almost the same thing, ya, berkenaan dengan the rights, ya, to and respect, ya, regarding the rights of people to development, ya, right to eliminate poverty and achieve economic, social, cultural, and political development. So statement itu kurang lebih sama, ya. In accordance with this right, citizens shall have the right to participate in development. That's a very interesting statement dalam artikel tersebut. The right to participate in development and contribute to and enjoy the benefits of their goods and fruits of their labor. Jadi pun ada di Charter, ya, among Arab countries, ya. And other relevant articles dalam tu, contohnya Article 39 on issue of young persons' right to be afforded the most ample opportunities for physical and mental development. Jadi ada kaitan, ya, tentang young persons' right. So that involve education, for example, ya, the rights to education and so on. Okay, in our case, our Association of Southeast Asian Nations, Human Rights Declaration, and by the way, I think kalau dah habis, baru mungkin habis malam, so that where the Asian leaders met, and one of the things dalam agenda mereka adalah berkenaan dengan apa yang berlaku di Myanmar sekarang ini, ya. Okay, so some of the conflicts that is happening there. So this ASEAN section of the ASEAN Human Rights Declaration in 2012, ya, is devoted to the rights to development. Jadi ianya telah termaktub di situlah dalam ASEAN Human Rights Declaration 2012 in paragraph 37, where it says that member states recognize the implementation of the right to development requires effective development policies at the national level as well as international cooperation, and that states should mainstream aspect of the right to development into ASEAN community building as well as work with international community to promote development-nya. Itu jadi ada kerjasama di antara negara-negara di kumpulan ataupun grup ASEAN ini, ya, ASEAN Community. Okay. So also more details, paragraph 35, for example, on the definition based on the United Nations Declaration, yang melibatkan social, cultural, political, and so on and so forth tadi kan. And also specifically on paragraph 36, where it mentioned on the duty to adopt development programs, including sustainable development and progressive narrowing of the development gap in ASEAN countries, involving ASEAN countries. Right. So yeah, so those are on ASEAN, and the Abu Dhabi Declaration as well. This is on the OIC, Organization of Islamic Countries, which was adopted in Abu Dhabi, sorry, Declaration 2016, quite similar, declaration urging OIC member states to take concrete and urgent actions to reinvigorate political will for implementing rights and development, also mainstream human rights and the RTD norms into development plans, and also to strengthen international cooperation with multilateral development institutions to address persistent challenges, and also to create linkages with the ongoing international initiative such as the SDGs, ataupun SDG tadi, Sustainable Development, taking into account the national circumstances as well as priorities. So yeah, we have that. Right. So these are the. I'm quite sure you know this already, kan? By now, you should be familiar with the Sustainable Development Goals ataupun SDGs, no poverty, zero hunger, good health and well-being, having quality education, gender equality, and also everybody should have access to clean water and sanitation, affordable and clean energy, macam-macam lagi, decent work and economic growth, industry, innovation and infrastructure, reduce inequality, agenda yang ke-11, goal yang ke-11, sustainable cities and communities, and the details tu ada, for each of these goals, target-target yang maksud saya, some of the targets, some of the sasarannya, Okay, so all of this, for sustainable development goals, All right, so you can link actually, there is a link between the rights to development declaration, United Nations, and also respective areas tadi, seperti American, African, and all that, and the 2030 agenda and SDGs, and also the Addis Ababa Action Agenda, including the Paris Agreement. So all of these actually are mentioned, so the international cooperation, for example, solidarity and friendly relations are essential in realizing the RTD, and also for the comprehensive development of developing nations, and that is stated in the RTD declaration, and also in the preambles, dalam artikel 1.2, artikel 3, 4, 6 dan sebagainya. Right, so these are some of the things. So they are already mentioned, of that, dalam talking about rights to development, and it is incorporated into the 2030 agenda, and also dalam SDG as well, termasuk benda macam ni lah. Contohnya 2030 agenda is informed by the RTD declaration dalam paragraph 10, and recognizes the respect for human rights, for example, including the right to development, and that is clearly stated dalam this paragraph 35, for example, in the agenda, dalam Rights to Development Declaration tadi. Termasuk juga tentang trade, investment, finance, isu debt, teknologi dan sebagainya. Right. So what are the relationship between the RTD and SDGs tadi? So in other words, these are mutually reinforcing or mutual reinforcement and synergy in action actually. So when people talk about right development, and that also is reflected in the sustainable development goals. Yeah. Contohnya for people in Africa, for example, yeah, for at least the least developed countries, landlocked countries, small islands, as well as for poor, vulnerable, marginalized, and disadvantaged communities in countries, right? So the Agenda 2030 aims to leave no one behind. Tak ada orang akan ditinggalkan, right? And commits to reaching the farthest behind first. In other words, they try to help the one who is the poorest. In other words, ya, yang susah nak yang sangat-sangat susah untuk dibantukan, diberi bantuan dahulu, ya, ya, reaching the farthest behind first by ensuring that the SDGs and also and targets are met, yeah, for all nations, peoples, and all segments of society. Okay, jadi right, so there's 17 of them, yeah, goals tadi, 17 SDGs and 169 targets altogether, all seek to realize the human rights of all and to achieve the gender equality and also empowerment of all women and girls. Ya, ini dinyatakan dalam preamble tadi RTD tadi. Ya, okay. So and also the new agenda, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, the International Human Rights Treaties, and so on, ya, ada dinyatakan situ. So the new agenda recognizes the need to build peaceful, just, and inclusive societies that provide equal access to justice and are based on respect for human rights. That's stated, clearly stated there. Okay, so if you link those three, those platform, if you will, RTDs, SDGs, and also Agenda 2030. You can look at it this way, yeah. For example, the rights to development principles element, you can also link that to the Agenda 2030 and the SDGs and its target. Yeah, for example, the people-centered development, yeah, and also human right-based approach also mentioned dalam Agenda 2030 agenda. For example, in the preamble, yeah, introduction, more or less, realize human rights for all is stated there, and also dinyatakan ataupun incorporated into the Sustainable Development Goals number 1 to 16, number 1 goals to number 16, yeah. And then for the state as primary duty barrier, for example, is also stated in the 2030 agenda, yeah, paragraph 1, 18, 19, 21, and so on and so forth, ya, dalam agenda tersebut, and also reflected dalam SDGs tadi lah, SDGs ataupun Sustainable Development Goal. And the issue of participation, equality, non-discrimination, and so on, yang dinyatakan pada Declaration Rights Development is also termasuk juga dalam Agenda 2030, ya, it is stated in there or mentioned again in 2030, and that is also incorporated into the Sustainable Development Goals and also. Jadi itu telah captured ataupun telah di synergize, ya, into all these actions tadi, ya. So this one is di program-program yang dilaksanakan, ya, dalam untuk mencapai SDG ini adalah seterusnya tujuannya untuk mencapai objektif yang ada pada ataupun prinsip yang ada pada right to development tadi, ya, and also dalam agenda 2030. Itu yang dimaksudkan dengan diagram inilah, ya. Right, so yeah, just to look back at this. So there is a link between rights to development declaration dengan pencapaian, ya, sustainable development goals tadi. Okay, another one, yeah, also to promote international peace, for example, that's also terdapat dalam dalam 2030 agenda dan juga specifically dalam dinyatakan dalam Sustainable Development Goal nomor 16, ya. Good governance, global partnership, and so on. That is reflected, tidak terdapat dalam 2030 agenda, tetapi ada kaitan dengan SDGs 10, 16, 17, ya, and the respective targets. Okay, and also in terms of means of implementation, whether it is national, international, and so on. Itu juga ada dikatakan ataupun dinyatakan dalam 2030 agenda, ya. So that's the link, ya, merupakan satu some reinforcement, if you will, berkenaan dengan RTD ini, reinforce under 2030 and also under SDGs tadi, ya, pencapaian SDG, Sustainable Development Goals. Okay, so in other words, SDGs ini provide renewed opportunities and potential contribution to more or less to operationalize the rights to development declaration tadi, ya. So there are consistent goals and targets. And they are similar in terms of emphasis on duties of state and also in terms of universal adoption of SDGs. Need strong political will, and also the RTDs, and also talks about enabling environment, policy space, and also policy coherence, international dimensions of RTD, also mentioned there, yeah, as a means of strengthening the means of implementation, yeah, and so on. All right, so RTD and SDGs is for everybody, for everyone, everywhere, right? So the declaration on the right to development provides a viable path, means to the prevention of conflict, peace building, and also sustain peace and sustainable development. Okay, so the agenda 2030 agenda and the sustainable development goals, reflecting and integrating human rights principles and requirements, and are planned for action for people, planet, and prosperity for all, ya, bukan untuk satu orang, satu negara, tetapi untuk keseluruhan manusia di dunia ini, ya. Alright, so that's more or less banyak ceritanya tentang tentang rights to development tadi, ya. So kalau nak baca lebih boleh, ya, you want to know more in depth on this, but it is already there, ya. Itu merupakan satu deklarasi yang diterima pakai di seluruh dunia. Cuma yang tak ada di sini adalah is not stated is among the Soviet Union and so on. It's not included in there, yeah. But some other countries already are included in their deklarasi, and also included dalam United Nations Sustainable Development Goal. Okay, what I just want to share probably in the next 10-15 minutes some examples of people participation, ya, in development, ya, ataupun participatory development. Okay, so allow me to share with you this one. Any question, by the way, regarding rights to development tadi, or comment? Okay, kalau tak ada saya
No, Prof.
okay. Okay, kalau tak ada saya proceed dengan this. We look at this briefly. It's a short video actually, but we give you some idea about the approach on apa nama tentang participatory development approach tadi ya. Okay, so let me stop share that one and share with you the yeah. Nope, that's wrong. I have to share that one again ya. I got to click on this baru boleh. Okay. Yeah. Okay, this is talking about people power, but it's actually about their participation. Yeah. So let's watch this for it's just about 3 minutes plus. Yeah. Ada suara kan?
Ada sedikit, Prof.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me adjust first. Yeah. Let me go back. I think I got it wrong. I know what to do. I've learned a lesson. Let me just stop, just again. Ini. Okay, now it should work. Yeah, it should work now.
This is Malawi, Africa, where most people live in rural communities. Here, people can only expect to live half as long as someone in the rich world. Healthcare is a major issue.
Now, can you hear?
And for most people, the village health centre is their...
Prof.
Boleh dengar? Boleh ya?
Boleh, Prof.
Okay, all right. So this is about some development issue lah di Africa, yeah.
Lifeline. But there has been some dissatisfaction with the service. A new scheme is being tried out to involve the villagers in the running of the local health centres. They call it the Community Scorecard Project. In this village, the men and women are evaluating the Kasonga Village Health Centre by giving scores on various aspects of the health service. At the women's meeting, they agree that the health centre staff have improved in their ability to listen to their problems and to respect their privacy and confidentiality. But they give a score of 0 on the attitude of some staff and on the care provided to undernourished children. Meetings like this are held in all the villages, and representatives are elected to form a village health committee. This committee combines the scorecard information and presents it to the village health centre staff. At the same time, the staff at the village health centres score their own performance.
The reason behind this scorecard process is to be able to give feedback to the people that are serving, to say, this is how we see us offering our services to you. And then the community should be able to give them feedback as well to say, this is how we see you doing your services, and then come together and resolve a better way of doing the services to the community.
What the project is doing basically is to also try to bring about interface between the service users who are right holders and the duty bearers.
I am the chairperson of the committee. I realize that we, as members of the committee, are a bridge between the community and health staff.
I never knew that this health center belongs to us community members, and this encourages me to play a role in the running of the health facility. Previously, a lot of mothers used to give birth within the village at traditional birth attendants, but now they know the importance of coming to the health center through the kind of work that we are doing, and as a result, maternal deaths have been reduced.
The uptake of certain services have improved simply because people in the communities, they are able to discuss the issue. They are able to assess their needs, and they are able to prioritize solutions to their problems.
one community member said, it is good to work in this project because what you've done is you've taught us how to fish. Instead of giving us fish, you're teaching us how to fish. So to them, they think it is very good because even if the project phases out, they'll still remain with the skills and the sustainability will be there.
Okay, that's the yeah, so that's the first one. It's talking about Panama issue of health services in Africa, in one of the countries in Africa, and also talking about the need to involve the local community, local people, and discuss the issue. Right. So that's one, yeah. And the next one I want to share with you is balik kepada ni. Okay, the second one. Okay. In different country. Okay, this one is in Brazil, I think.
The city of Porto Alegre has been voted as the Brazilian city with the best quality of life for 4 consecutive years. But the challenge is how to include the poorest citizens in this success story. Nelsie Alves has been living in this area since 1942.
I've got 6 children, 14 grandchildren, and 1 great-grandchildren. I'm 84 years old. I don't care for myself since I've been at the end of my life. I'd like to see the children from the community behind my house having their own school and house.
Many rural people moved to Porto Alegre to find work in the construction industry. With no housing available, they built on any available empty space. Previous governments often demolished these dwellings and relocated the people.
We were really afraid to wake up one day and have all that machines to vanish us from our place. We never think about our house like a place where we would invest, to buy a chair, to buy a TV, or to redecorate.
At the end of the 1980s, Brazil moved from a totalitarian state to a democracy. In Porto Alegre, the Workers' Party was elected on its promise to involve the citizens in decision-making using the traditional neighbourhood associations. The city is divided into 16 regions, and during each year, local neighbourhoods send representatives to people's assemblies. In these assemblies, the neighbourhood representatives discuss priorities for the allocation of the city budget. They then elect their representatives from each region to form a budget council. Nelsie is an active member of the community council, presenting the case for a housing project for the 230 families in her community.
We've been waiting for more than 20 years for solutions. The government has already approved the whole project. We are only waiting for the money to finance the constructions.
Formada a Associação de Moradores.
In '86, we founded the Neighborhood Association because we want to get some money from the government. In 1998, we got the money to make our project, and this was really a victory.
The People's Budget Council decides on the priorities for government spending based on a matrix of population and need, and then presents this to the Parliament.
Each year in the meetings we have around 16,000 to 20,000 people participating directly when the budget arrived to the Parliament. It's difficult for the formal Parliament to refuse the proposal because it comes based on a lot of participation. They have a kind of a citizen behavior. They appropriate the city as something that belongs to them. See, they act as local mayors sometimes.
So what does the mayor think about all this?
Eu me sinto muito bem.
I believe in this program since I was one of those responsible for starting it 15 years ago. The participatory budget is now part of the organic life of this city. People can change it anytime they please, and this makes it adaptive to their needs.
We have had many achievements in our community, our school, traffic lights, and now this health clinic, which serves 18,000 people. The reason for our success is the strong participation from within the community.
What we think about life changed absolutely. This project began to be a dream for the future of our children, a place where our children could exercise their rights of playing, running, jumping, to make everything that any children has the right to do and couldn't do in the old way that we were living.
Okay, that's before we go to this to this next video, just quickly on the case study of Brazil just now. It's more or less about housing problem and issues to that, such as clinic and so on and so forth. Yeah? So this is where the participate through their representative, for example, in the local neighborhoods, and participate in the community council, they call it, yeah, to plan, to decide on what project to have for the community, and also how much budget is required. So that is very powerful. According to the member of parliament just now in the dalam video too, it's difficult for the parliament to reject the proposal because it comes from the people. So that's the power of having participatory development, actually. Yeah, one example of that. That's a good example of what you can expect actually for maybe for your project lah. Identify what kind of project and so on, right? And you know, you can work on that. Yeah. Okay. So the third example here, I didn't have part one. Part four of people power. Yeah. So let's look at this one. This one is in I think it's in Europe or in Ireland maybe.
Ireland enjoys one of the most thriving economies in Europe. 20 years ago, this was not the picture.
The Irish economy by the 1980s was in a deep crisis of rising debt, falling real living standards, and attempts by government to fix this by raising taxation. The result was a severe crisis of unemployment and of the public finances, in which each group's attempt to defend its own interest was simply subtracting from the sum total of economic performance.
All of the groupings involved in Irish society worked together to try and tackle that debt crisis. And I suppose out of that we learned that it was possible for the government, for the employers, for the unions and the NGOs to work together on issues without themselves giving up their ultimate social vision, that they could actually work together in a problem-solving way to tackle national important issues that were affecting this country. Well, the process works at national level by the government, the trade unions, the employers and the NGOs coming together to try and put together an overall strategy, setting out what should be the priorities that Ireland should pursue, say, over the next 3 to 4 years, and deliver it not just at national level, but also at local level. So the people who are closest to the problem are the ones that are asked to try and implement the solution.
The north side of Dublin was a black spot, with more than 50% unemployment, children not starting school, and youth leaving before they'd finished. A North Side partnership was formed to translate the national strategy to the local level. Aidan Flaherty was the founding director of this partnership.
The Northside Partnership, first of all, it should be understood that it's made up of a number of very important sort of groupings. We have my own grouping, the employers, the trade unions, and I guess they're often seen together in many aspects of doing business on a daily basis. But the important thing about this was that it also included the state agencies, people who had a responsibility to deal with social issues in the particular area, and most importantly of all for me, the community groups themselves from within the community in which we're operating. The degree to which they were in there trying to help themselves became a very powerful motivating factor for the rest of us who are in there to help them, because it is very easy to help people who actually want to help themselves. Our involvement stretched over a broad number of inputs. I mean, obviously, the easy one for anybody to think about is sort of contributing money. But I think there are things that are far more important than the cash contributions. Our involvement on the board itself in structuring policy, our involvement in the effort to try and create employment in the area through the enterprise subgroups, our involvement in terms of creating work experience within our business for people who are unemployed at that time.
There were some people who required a special work environment, so the Northside Partnership set up a factory. Here, people were given their very first paid job. In Western Europe, some bored teenagers steal cars to go joyriding. The partnership decided to build on this interest in cars by developing a special training course.
This course here is funded by the Joyriding Task Force of Darndale. At the moment, I have 11 lads working away. I have 4 lads out on work experience. It's taken off very, very fast.
Within 6 months, 9 of the boys had found full-time work. Some needed help even earlier.
Stand over there and have your juice. Stand there and have your juice.
A breakfast club was created to encourage young children to come to school.
I think what is amazing in relation to all the things that we've done here in the partnership, tackling unemployment or education disadvantage, is there is the simple things that work.
The biggest success of the partnership has undoubtedly been employment. Ireland has increased its employment by 54% since 1990, which is really quite remarkable. And in many ways, the partnership approach allowed some of Ireland's longer-term strategies, such as inward investment and investment in education, allowed them to finally succeed.
Since issues nowadays are much more complex, that it's very important to involve the people who are affected by the problem you're trying to address, but also the people who have to deliver the solutions, and deliver the solutions at the lowest possible level. And I think that's the way that democracy will work in future.
I mean, we've tried all sorts of other systems. We've tried to give it to a particular family, and it hasn't really worked, and that's what Kings were all about. We've tried to spread it out among larger privileged groups of people, nobility, and that hasn't worked very well. We've given it to wise men and to the army, and that hasn't worked. Where it's really worked is where the people basically are forced to come to some consensus about what are the best measures, and giving them space to discuss it. So it's not to accept their first answers, but give them time to think it out, debate it, be aware of all the issues.
I don't know if this is democracy. I'm not an expert on that. What I know is that this is good accountability. it's good sense, and maybe that's democracy.
So, you know, really, at the end of the day, it's really up to the governments to make up their mind, to decide whether they want to respect the more participatory model or to invite confrontation, to invite violence, and perhaps ultimately.
This particular one, I suppose the part one, which I didn't put up here, but this is in India. Anyway, it's just to summarize the whole thing.
The dismantling of the very democratic system.
Okay, so the third example just now is, as I said, is in a developed country, Ireland, yeah, in Europe. It's about a partnership approach. Again, it is about participation, yeah, where they have this partnership between the employer, the union, trade union, the government represented by the state, the NGOs, and so on. Yeah, they work together try to solve the problem. Basic problem they have is unemployment. So they group together or they form a partnership and come out with solutions. Yeah, solutions to the employment. Yeah. So it involved the community groups. So that's one good example, and according to the record on the videos now, they have solved the problem. They have increased employment rate very substantially in Ireland. Yeah, so that's a good example. Another example of the importance of having participatory development approach, yeah, through discussion, through partnership, yeah, consultation, and so on. All right, so itu more or less wrap up our topic for today on development and or rather participatory development or participation and development. Okay, any question or concern maybe?
Tak ada, Prof.
No, Doctor.
Ya.
Yeah, long day, I know. Alright, kalau ada yang nak ambil apa nama ni dan sebalik, let me share with you the QR code kalau tak sempat tadilah. Tapi ada yang sudah dapat register melalui WhatsApp tadi. So I take that into consideration as well. Take that into account, ya. Alright.
Doctor.
Sure, yeah. Siapa ni?
If we service. If we have any question means we will let in group, Prof.
Okay, no problem. Yeah. You can use the
Thank
group.
you, Prof.
Privately message me. That's okay.
Thank you, Prof.
Welcome. Okay, kalau tidak ada apa-apa lagi, that's all that we have for today. Thank you very much for your participation in the class. All right, I'll see you again next week, yeah?
Thank you, Prof.
All right.
Thank you, Prof.
Thank you, Prof.
Thank you,
Prof. Thank you, Prof.
Thank you.
Thank you, Prof.
Selamat berbuka puasa pada semua, kepada yang berkaitan, yang